Hello everybody, Haku here with my review for episode 9 of Juuni Taisen, and the show continues its descent, I guess. This episode, if I were judging it as just an episode alone by itself, considering none of the rest of the show, I'd think it was better than last week's. But considering the rest of the show and taking everything else into consideration, it was bad. It was maybe worse just because it makes me upset how many opportunities it had that it missed to do a good thing because it's telling absolutely no story. Like, I'll go through this and discuss the different parts of it, stuff I liked and didn't like, but know the big overall thread through it, the overall complaint I'm probably going to have, is that this show has told no story. But I'll get to all that at the end when I run down the episode as a whole. But either way, let's go part by part to discuss this. So at the very beginning, Zombie Monkey sees Dragon and tosses Rabbit up there towards him. Dragon gets completely wrecked, leaving us with 4 left. And also, the first big waste of a character and waste of a death. We just spent an entire episode last week getting his backstory, all for his backstory to play nothing into the main plot, so we might as well have not seen it. It was pointless because his death didn't mean anything. It didn't tell a story. It let us know what was going on, but it didn't tell a story. Then we have the actual getting down to Tiger and Ox and stuff, and they use CG this week. I said last week, I was like, oh, the past couple weeks it has been a slow decline until last week the animation looked terrible. I was like, did they blow all their animation on making the first episode look amazing and that's why it's gone downhill? But no, I guess I could kind of see that, because it's like, what did they do this week that they're like, we have no money left for real animation, let's throw in the 3D CG. There was one point, I'm going to go ahead and preface this and say the fight looked really good, but other than that, all the stuff with the CG bothered me, because it looked really stilted and flat. It does the thing that normally people that use bad CG do, where if an arm is going to be moving, the arm is the only thing on screen moving and everything else looks like it's locked in place, so it looks really uncanny and unrealistic. I think it looks bad in general when it flips back and forth most of the time between normal animation and 3D CG, just because the difference in quality is there slapping you in the face. So it's different if something is CG all the time and that's its art style. It's different than when you have a normal anime with the CG thrown in there, and it just doesn't look good because it sticks out as not looking good. It sticks out as looking lazy. But yeah, I guess that's my general problem, with the exception of the fight. It just looked really stilted and flat, and nothing moved except the mouths when they were talking. Nothing moved except a body part if that body part was supposed to move, and that just inherently looked kind of bad. So we get into a Tiger flashback, which means she's probably dying very soon. I mean, we already know that because they're going in the zodiac order for whatever stupid reason, so we already know the outcomes of everything that happens, because, I don't know, I guess screw telling a story once again. But we have a flashback for Tiger. So she was set to inherit this dojo. She goes off to war, and war wasn't as glamorous as what she thought it would be. This whole battle of warriors and all of that, and war ended up being just gruesome, and she becomes an alcoholic because it kind of keeps her from thinking about how bad humanity is and the way they kill each other and stuff like that. So she becomes an alcoholic. It helps her escape. And she learns that when she's not thinking, she gets even stronger and more bestial in nature. So eventually she just decides not to think anymore because she's happier that way. She gets kicked out of the dojo, and slowly over time she loses her sense of being able to tell time, being able to tell a location or where she is. She forgets all about math except for basic multiplication and simpler. She forgets about how to read complicated words. So in general, she just regresses to not thinking. We jump back from that to the present time again. Still very stilted CG. And then we have the actual fight, and it looks really good. And if I were judging this episode on the enjoyment of watching that fight overall, though it was very, very short, I guess, it would be much higher. But as a part of a story, there's no story here, so it is kind of whatever. It's a good fight in a story. Then Tiger uses the liquid nitrogen to beat the corpses to end it. Rabbit then confronts them, gets completely wrecked, but I think he might not be dead yet, because maybe he can transfer his consciousness to other corpses he's controlled, like Monkey, or maybe he can reform his body. That has something to do with his power. Or perhaps because we've seen the rabbit has the black sclera and red eyes like all the corpses do, perhaps that body was just a corpse the entire time and the real rabbit is somewhere else. That and has been hidden this entire time. That could definitely be a possibility too. So yeah, I guess that's about it for the episode, wasn't it? They take out him, and yeah, that was it. Okay, so CG, I think it was a bad choice for him. It looked pretty bad. I mean, if they blew their budget, what other choice did they have? But still, I think it was a bad choice with the exception of the fight. The fight did look nice. And there's no real story because nothing is important. They had this entire time to develop characters, to write a story, and they did none of that. None of it. No story. Basically, what I'm saying by this is you can even look at any other survival game, and survival games aren't the most story-heavy a lot of the time. But even looking at what I consider to be a not very good survival game in Mirai Nikki, all the characters were introduced and developed for a reason. When they died for a reason. It progressed a story. It all fell in together and had an important meaning. And then to take it to a good survival game, you have Magical Girl Raising Project, where again, all the characters were developed episodes before their death most of the time, and if they were developed just that episode that they died or something, there was a reason to it, there was a purpose. There was a reason for everything all the characters did, the connections between them, but here with this show, we have pretty much no connection between characters. Anytime a connection is made, a character just immediately dies and it doesn't go anywhere. When we see a backstory, you think, okay, that's a cool character, but then they die and their death doesn't mean anything, and since their death didn't mean anything, it makes it so the backstory didn't mean anything either. So the character wasn't really actually developed because they didn't push the story forward at all. And that's what happened here. If Rabbit is really dead, which I don't think so, but hey, you never know with the way this has been going. If Rabbit really died here, then his death means nothing. Dragon's death definitely meant nothing. He didn't push forward any of the other characters all throughout the show. He finally showed up. We spent an episode on his backstory, and then he died without pushing forward the story at all. So he served no purpose. You look at Sheep. Sheep served no purpose. Look at Chicken or Rooster, Bird, whatever. She had a really interesting story, but at the end of the day, she didn't influence any other character. She didn't influence the story as a whole, especially since she was killed by someone other than Rabbit, so her corpse couldn't be used with his power. Because I think that's how it works. I think that's why he couldn't bring Horse back to life, is he has to kill the person to bring them back to life. That's what I would guess from how this goes. But yeah, all these characters, they ended up not meaning anything. They ended up not having that connection, and especially characters that seemed like they were built to do that, like Monkey. Monkey seems like she was built to be the good guy that dies but pushes other characters forward into becoming good guys. Or, I mean, there's so many things that could have been done there, but in the end, Monkey was just killed, and it's like, oh, nope, nothing mattered. So that's the problem with the show as a whole, is that we started off somewhere, and it was a really great first episode, great production quality, and the way it weaved its original story and built up Boar just to kill her off was really cool, and it made you feel like, okay, nobody's safe because they spent that much time on her. But then, episode after episode, dog was killed off meaning nothing, chicken killed off meaning nothing. I kept waiting for a story to happen. I was like, okay, they're jumping off from this point and they're going to build a story, and they never did. They never developed anyone. They never made anything mean anything. We still don't even have any connection. Like right now, there's no sort of tension or discord. Is it like, oh, none of them want to destroy or dismantle the Juuni Taisen or the system that they're in right now? Not even that. There's no sense of that yet. We may get something like that, but if we do, it's going to be within the last 3 episodes, and there's been no build up for it throughout the series before now. So yeah, even the final 3 characters, we've gotten a backstory for Tiger, but I certainly wouldn't say she's been developed since she showed up she really showed up probably over halfway into the series. And then even when she showed up, the only character she's had a real interaction with is Ox, and one of them is going to kill each other now, or kill the other right now. Presumably Ox is going to kill her. And she isn't going to push Ox further any, because his character is completely deadpan with no sort of story. And even, again, if we get a backstory for him, the backstory could give us some context for him, but I don't really think it could develop him this quickly, because again, he's gone through the entire series, he's killed all these characters, done all this stuff, but we still have no motive, we have no connection. His character is bland and empty. The character doesn't have a story. It's just there. It's like all these characters are doing things, but none of what they're doing is connected or important. None of it tells a story. None of it has a weight. So, yeah, I think this series has sort of hit the point of no return. I think it's gone completely downhill, where even if they do manage to tell a story, they're only telling a story with 3 of the 12 characters, 13 if you count Duo Couple. They're only telling a story with a handful, even less, of the characters that they started out with, and they're only telling a story in 3 episodes if they do start telling a story next episode, while spending the first 9 just kind of wasting our time a little bit with meaningless stuff. So I guess that's where I am for the episode. I'm going to give it 4, just 4 pointless deaths out of 10. I almost wanted to give it just a little bit of a lower score than that, even, just because it's a shame that I think it just almost kind of pisses me off that we spent a whole episode on backstories last week for it to do nothing for the story. Snake dying doesn't push forward Tiger any, or Ox any, not at all. It does nothing for the story. We spent an episode on a backstory for nothing to happen. So yeah, it was a mess. It's a total mess. And it's not even a mess in that it's rushed or that it's terrible, because if it was rushed or terrible, you could at least laugh at, like, oh my god, how much of a mess is this? It's just that there's nothing there. You watch it and there's no content there. Stuff is just happening with no reason. But either way, that's it. I guess if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this episode or the show as a whole. I said like, comment, subscribe, all that. Follow on Twitter if you want. I'll try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel. If you want a link to our Discord server, just ask and I'll give you one. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.